Hello and welcome. Hello everyone. It's great to see you all here on time. I'm Gopal Krishna Anand, the Associate Editor of Thermal Control Magazine, and I would like to welcome you to our interactive session on prescribed indoor environment quality. My colleague Darshana, who is the Assistant Editor of Thermal Control Magazine, will be introducing the panelist and moderating the session. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Ms. Darshana to take over and start the session.
Thank you, Mr. Gopal. Welcome to Thermal Control Magazine's interactive session on prescribed indoor environment quality. Did you know that indoor air can be more harmful than outdoor air? That's why we need to control pollution sources to achieve clean air. One way to do this is by using natural sources like solar, wind power, and fans instead of ACs. We also need to properly ventilate and filter indoor air to improve its quality and use less toxic materials and fuels to reduce pollution. Portable air cleansers can also be helpful. To discuss the solutions and more, Thermal Control Business Update is hosting a 90-minute virtual round conference on prescribed indoor environment quality. Our speakers, including Mr. Abhinav Gupta, CEO and co-founder of Active Buildings, Mr. Richi Mittal, Managing Director of Overdrive Engineering Private Limited, Mr. Ravi Kaushik, CEO of Air Earth, and Mr. Suhail Parkar, Director of IAQA India Chapter.
Now, Mr. Abhinav, you were mentioning about the parameters. There is a question for you. How do you ensure that cross-sensitivity do not affect the readings on your devices? For example, between ozone and NOx.
So that's actually a very good question. Cross-sensitivity is the biggest issue that plagues almost any kind of what we call as an affordable sensing device. We have regulatory sensors that go up to $1.5 crore, but when we talk about the commercial market, we talk about affordable sensors. So in the affordable sensing category, there is definitely a question of how do you achieve cross-sensitivity bias. There are two ways to go about it. Number one is that you cannot, there is a trend in the technology that people want to use one sensor, one sensing element to sense multiple sensor parameters. So there are certain sensors that, as mentioned in the question, certain sensors that are sensitive to both ozone as well as NOx. Some technology providers will use the same sensor to calculate the value of both. So first things first, you need to have different sensing elements with a higher sensitivity to that particular chemical. So two sensing elements is first of all required. Second is that the calibration of each element has to happen against a reference gas of that specific reference gas. When you are saying TVOC, so there are a lot of sensor manufacturers will sell TVOC. What is the TVOC sensitized to? Even that's a slightly bigger question. So at a base level question, the question is that NOx and ozone, how do we make sure that there is no cross sensitivity? The first answer is obviously have different sensors. But when you calculate, say, TVOC, total volatile organic chemicals, then you are using a single sensor to monitor the total VOC. But even that sensor has to be sensitized or has to be benchmarked against one reference gas. That reference gas has to be mentioned very clearly and should be known. Once you know the reference gas, then the cross sensitivity across different chemicals can be very easily resolved. So that would be my answer.
Thank you, Mr. Abhinav. There is another question from Mr. Kanishk Ghosh. He asks, are radon levels important to consider the indoor air quality management?
Radon is absolutely important. It is also very difficult to measure. It is not as straightforward as of today. I always say as of today, because when back 6 years ago, when we were trying to monitor CO2, it was not easy to monitor CO2 to the level of accuracy as it is today. So as of now, monitoring radon to an accurate level is slightly an expensive affair, but there are big strides happening in that direction as well. And hopefully someday there will be a low cost radon sensor. But to answer the question, yes, definitely radon is required and should be measured in the IAQ domain.
Yes, it's a rare earth element. Mr. Abhinav, there is another question. What is the deviation in energy cost when utilizing the ventilation system?
Yes. So in our case, annualized is 3%. 3% difference on the annual electricity consumption. The consumption is slightly higher in the summer months. In the monsoon months, it is not as high. It is almost the same. And in winter months, Mumbai is not really known for its winters, but slightly lesser as compared to summers. The deviation in the winters was slightly lesser. So on an annualized level, the annual bill is increased by 3%. With the interventions that we did for the sensor and everything. So when you use the sensors and you stop and start the DOS system, the vent mid system, as and when the pollution level changes, you can bring it down to 3%. Otherwise, if you don't do this and you keep running the systems all the time, then approximately 7-8% on an annual level, the electricity bill can increase.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Anubhav. I think Mr. Kanik would have got the satisfactory reply. Coming to Mr. Suhail, Mr. Abhinav was talking in his presentation about monitoring the VOCs and NOx. There is a question from Kanish Ghosh again. Are there any sensors to monitor the level of VOCs or mold?
Mold is a different subject, which we don't use electronic monitors. You have to collect air samples in an air pump, which is at particular liters per minute, and there's a protocol to be followed, and those samples have to be sent to a lab, an accredited lab. And what we do, if you just want to see the density, we look for the quantity of colony forming units. If it is 50 or it is 100, 200 or even higher. And in some cases, you're going to go even further for investigation. We can actually identify what family of mold, and you take different sampling for mold, for bacteria, because the base is different. So these tests have to be collected in a proper manner, a protocol followed, and sent to a lab, and then wait for the results where it is cultured and get the results. Unlike when you do a TVOC, you might just take an electronic reading. And like correctly said by Abhinav, there again, different, if it has been tested against a different combination of gas, 1 meter to the other might give you very different reading. Something I bought from the US and something I bought from Finland just don't match. Yeah. So this is something you will learn along the way, but there is some measurement is better than no measurement.
Thank you, Mr. Suhail, for highlighting about the measures. Some anonymous attendee is there. He is asking about the OSHA requirements. So could you elaborate on that?
In the US, this is the US where you have occupational safety and hazard administration, where there are set guidelines which are legally binding, where you can be taken to the court of law and spoken about negligence as per those standards. We don't have them in India, but it's better to follow some standard than no standard at all. So we adapt the advanced countries. See, we in our developing economies have a very different problem. They say the indoor air is more polluted than outdoor. Here, Richie is saying the oxygen level was 18 in Delhi. So the environments are so different, but we need to have certain standards to follow, to benchmark with, which is what we're trying to quote.
Yes, Mr. Suhail, some standard, international standard should be there. My another question is, how can air pollution be arrested on the construction sites? You see everywhere there is an infra, real estate and redevelopment are going on, and it's a continuous activity everywhere.
There are various protocols to follow. Anybody passing next to a construction site, even if you see the roads out there are damaged, air, obviously, the amount of dust level they generate is very high. We have such hot, dry environments most of the time of the year, and these particulate levels are spreading right across. Measures are not taken to wet the place to keep the in the Middle East, the project sites are kept wet. The vehicles that go in and out are washed, the wheels, before they even move out of the. Nobody is monitoring that. There is no BMC system of fining builders or monitoring what is the dust level they are generating. We have done some progress on human safety hazards, but not on environment safety. There's no one going and giving them a challan. Laws have to be not only made, but implemented, and awareness of the neighbors to go and demand that they be fined if not maintained. It's participation of everybody, the public, the government, the developers, and us who can educate them.
Yes, definitely. There has to be right to the healthy life. What are your comments, Mr. Richie, on it?
Sohail has mentioned it, but we have a green building movement happening in India, and where it is very important that whatever construction, whenever there is a construction, all precautions have to be taken, which is a mandatory requirement. So I don't say that all of us are following it, but anybody who's going for green, which I believe a lot of commercial establishment are going for green, and the only reason they want to go green is not because they want to go green, they want incentive, which is by getting extra FAR. So that is a little sad part, but yes, they are going green and they have a very mandatory requirement of following those protocol of pollution around the construction site. I would say that. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Rishi. But how would you connect the oxygen with the green? That is a difficult thing.
Oxygen, nobody speaks. That's it.
So,
we talk about so many parameters. We talk about CO2, VOC, everything. I mean, everything is important. I don't deny that. But you see, I did a couple of projects where we got the oxygen concentrator, when not now, before COVID, I'm talking. And people sitting in the office, I'm talking of very high-end level people, they were so excited because you see, you have to really, just to give an example, you go to casino, you enjoy it, you are very happy. You know why? Because the oxygen level is very high there. So you don't sleep, you are excited, you spend money, you enjoy, you chill. Why? Because of the oxygen level. That is the catch in the casino. You don't feel sleepy the whole night. Otherwise you'll stop, browning that, okay, I have to go to sleep. So that's the importance of oxygen, I would say.
That's a great awareness. So, see, ozone and 2.5 is quite deadly, you were talking about.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So what are the remedial options to get better air quality to be effective in creating a healthy environment?
Yes, that is the only option, because 2 days back, there was an article in the newspaper in New Delhi where they found the ozone levels to be very, very high. And, there are sources of ozone like emissions and other things which needs to be taken care of. Obviously, PM 2.5 is something also needs to be taken care of. We are already, our air quality index in Delhi is plus 300 even in summers. It should have been in winters, but today, be it summer or monsoon or winter, monsoon is okay, but summer or winter, we are 300 plus. We go to 400 also. So, and ozone is something, human, it's a very serious concern actually, but unfortunately, I told you that, we are very immature on air quality. We don't talk about it. That's very unfortunate. I know Anubhav is speaking, Ravi is speaking, so we all of us are speaking, but how many people are aware of air quality? They talk about it, they don't follow it. I know Anubhav must be knowing, I know how many active buildings, how many buildings are really air quality maintained? Very few. You can name numbers, it may be not even a double-digit number, I would say, in India. So that is a challenge. And, just to give an idea, we have a society, Indian Society of Heating, Refrigerating and Air Conditioning, ISHRE, I'm sure all of you would be knowing. We have a standard, the first ever standard made on indoor environmental quality, which has been upgraded now. So that is available, but nobody talks about it. People don't follow it. So that's a very sad part. But yes, the COVID has taught us a lot about fresh air and other things. And so that is what I would say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rishi. COVID is definitely a standard set for humanity.
Just, I would like to say a couple of words. If Mr. Mittal mentioned about ISHRE standard. ISHRE standard is probably in 2016 when we sort of geared into this direction of going into environment quality monitoring. ISHRE standard was the blueprint we followed, and it's the blueprint we follow still to this day, not just for, as we mentioned, air, but also for, say, circadian rhythm, lighting, water, all of it, right? So right from what type of sensing should be used to what should be the accuracy, what should be the sensitivity. ISHRE has done a fantastic job and is probably one of the most stringent standard globally for indoor environment, not just air, indoor environment. So, more people should know about ISHRE. That's what I'm trying to say. That's all.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. People should know about the ISHRE and more awareness has to come. Mr. Ravi, So everybody is talking about 2.5 and filtrations and other things. Do you think filter technology can improve air quality to its satisfaction? And even in the existing installations with the clean air standards
Yeah,
for filter efficiency like Eurovento or REVA recommendations?
it definitely does. However, in India, for industries, the problem remain with maintenance. The filters are supposed to run for, let's say, 1 year. They keep it running for 5 years. They are meant to be washed only 3 or 4 times maximum, and they wash it every month, and they keep it running for 5 years, right? So this is what is happening in India in at industrial level, but at household level, where I think we should be selfish, how to protect my family, my parents, my kids, etc. That's where I think what we have seen on ground talking to a lot of people is people are unaware of what does PM 2.5 being 200 or 300 means. They have no idea. There is no benchmarking, right? It is not on human scale. This is what I would say, right? Because they have no benchmarking of reference point, it kind of becomes very ambiguous for them, very confusing. And yes, there are solutions, air purifier being one of them. However, what we have understood, it's not a habit, so they are never going to turn it on knowing the fact that PM has gone up, shot up, or shot down. It's just that when it comes on news during Diwali time, that PM level is like it can kill you, right? It's only then people buy it and use it for 1 month or two. Maybe they don't even use it, they just buy it because people are saying you should use air purifier. So this is the problem. The people have buying capacity, but they are not aware of it, and that's why they are not making it as a habit on monitoring the air quality around them, what their family is breathing, and also in offices what their employees and co-workers are breathing. So I think that's the problem. Buying capacity is not an issue in India, at least now.
Mr. Ravi, thank you very much for that. Awareness is very necessary. It's a general open question for any one of you. We are talking about the indoor spaces more dangerous. So in a built environment, how do you evaluate new technology for managing IOQ? I mean large spaces. Mr. Abhinav?
Yes. So when you come to new technologies, I think so there is we've been recommending new technologies to people all the time. So the way we've always done it is it's important to test before and after. Critically, what we would like to do is in the case, let's not even talk about industrial environment. Let's talk about what all of us understand, our homes. If you want to purchase something for your home and you want to know if it works, the performance is the only way to understand if it works or not. People can say, I put a H14, I put an H11, I put a MERV 7, I put a MERV 8. All of that is fine. Ultimately, what is the level of pollution in the air where I'm sitting? That is important. And that is the biggest and the most important metric to monitor when it comes to testing new technologies. That's number one. Number two is that it is also important to understand what is happening behind this technology. When it comes to air pollution, or when it comes to air pollution control, more importantly, there is one technology that has been always there and that will always work, which is a filter. You put a box, a fan, and a filter, it will work, right? Then there are other types of technologies that are coming, which is ozone generating, or it is bipolar ionization, or it is photocatalytic oxidation, or UV based system. These are what we call as it is not a filter based system, it is a chemical substrate based system. Now it is important to understand what are the byproducts of such a system. There can be a condition or a situation where there is no byproduct. There are certain types of ionization methods. I don't remember exactly which these methods are, but there are methods that have been proven that there is no ozone generation. And then there are methods in which the ozone generation is very high. Ozone is a lung irritant, and it as such should not be in the indoor environment at all. It should be there up in the stratosphere protecting us from the UV sun rays, but not where we are breathing. So, and And further to that, there are certain states like the state of California. In the entire world, there is just the state of California that has a law that says that if you are putting an ionization purifier, this is the amount of ozone it can generate, otherwise you cannot sell. That kind of laws, apart from the state of California, are not there anywhere, right? Which points to the fact that a lot of people don't know how such things are affecting your indoor chemistry. I'm not saying that these solutions don't work. That is not what I'm saying. The question being that how do you test? You test by monitoring. Does it help the objective? Is it creating a deviation in the indoor air chemistry? The two things, if you take care of, you can monitor any kind of novel technology before installing it in your facility.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Richie, would you like to comment upon it?
I don't know. I think he has very well said on this.
Oh,
but there are technologies, and I don't want to repeat what he said. He's very well placed it on the record. So I think.
Okay, quite nice of you. So we had very charming presentations by our guest. They were worth sharing and knowledge enhancing. So we are coming to the end of the session. I would request Mr. Suhail Parker to give closing remarks, please.
Well, it was a very interesting presentation. I mean, there was a lot of things I picked up along the way, which I wasn't aware of. And we should do more of this to exchange knowledge. It's impossible to learn everything yourselves. You have to take it from a lot of other people who have read a lot more from other sources and expand on it. And the key is to get this knowledge out, to get legislation in eventually and people demand that this is our right to have good quality air. And because people have sold us equipment now, like for example, I'll give you an example. We don't implement our laws. 20 years back, everybody was selling ozone generators to purify the air in India itself, and it's done and away with. But these laws should be implemented, and people should be and this such kind of gatherings will help. Larger gatherings like this will help to achieve those.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suhail, for that. And of course, awareness and standards for healthy air is must. So thank you very much, sirs. Now I request Darshana to close the session, please.
Thank you, panelists, for exchanging your valuable thoughts on today's prescribed indoor air environment quality. We hope you have enjoyed the session thoroughly. Before wrapping up today's session, we would like to thank our distinguished panelists, Mr. Abhinav Gupta, Mr. Ravi Kaushik, Mr. Suhail Parker, and Mr. Richie Mittal. I would also like to thank Mr. Gopal Anand and Mr. Prasad Nair for taking this initiative. We request our delegates and viewers to stay connected with us on our social media handles. Thermal Control Magazine is available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also download our app from Google Play and App Store. With this, we want to announce the closing of today's session. Request you to stay tuned for more sessions. Thank you and goodbye.